everyone, and welcome back, where we've got some, I'd say, sad and interesting news that at least does show how a dev can have bad news and at least sort of respond with it decently. So to get into it, right, here's the rub. Halo Infinite is not going to have campaign co-op or Forge at launch. They'll be in the months following the game's release, and the game's release is, that great date that we all would look forward to called Holiday 2021, wherever that is. Now, this is, of course, quite a blow. If you're anybody who's played Halo before, you will know that Forge and co-op campaign are major parts of the Halo experience. Co-op campaign, very obvious. Forge, also the likes of, say, modes like Fat Kid and the various different things, custom maps, the MLG rule sets, all of that stuff. It was pretty big for maybe less the very casual Halo person, but for the people who would log in week after week after week, the likes of Forge were extremely important, so them not being there obviously sucks. And this is in a context where Halo 5 had issues and itself did not release in the most complete feeling of states. Now, this bitter pill was given to us to swallow as a part of this Halo Infinite development update that they did, which is a 28-minute long video going through quite a bit, and of course, dropping the bad news. Now, there is something that I found to be immediately interesting. I mean, for the game that we'd cover the most, World of Warcraft, if they did the equivalent, it would be all dislikes. But when 343 go and do this, you actually look here, 13k likes, 2.4k dislikes. And I think fair enough for those dislikes, and the fact that there are so many likes, I think that shows that people are appreciating the open communication with this game, right? So even if we're not getting the most ideal situation, at least they're being honest and upfront with the entire thing. That's not going to make it feel any better when launch happens, other than maybe instilling a little bit more faith in people. But absolutely, in terms of community management and public relations, they're doing a pretty good job, right? Like, this isn't something where it was a tweet or a blog post where the info would get out and then they would lose the narrative. No, the only way to get the bad news was to fully engage with the narrative, which is their, 30-minute-ish video. So, to go into what's going on, co-op campaign will be delayed until Season 2, which is going to be around 3 months post-launch, and Forge is aimed for Season 3, which will be about 6 months after launch, and there's going to be no split-screen multiplayer for PC at launch. Now, that's unfortunate for the likes of us who will have something like this bad boy, who will, want to plug it into a TV and basically get maybe a console-like couch co-op experience. I think for most PC gamers, they're probably not going to notice it that much. Now, with co-op campaign and Forge being delayed like that, you can see at least them being able to get 2 additional marketing events and a new reason for people to return for Season 2 and Season 3. Now, I'm not going to be cynical and say that that's why they've done this. I think absolutely they are probably very pissed off internally that they've not been able to hit these features for launch, but I suppose that's something worth thinking about. I think it just means that Season 1 is going to be a pretty bare-bones experience. We'll just have to see. Now, on the delay, here are a number of key quotes from the video to help you understand things. They first admit that campaign co-op is fundamental to the Halo experience. And here's their explanation of the cut. Unfortunately, as we focus the team for shutdown and really focused on a quality experience for launch, we made the really tough decision to delay shipping campaign co-op for launch, and we also made the tough call to delay shipping Forge past that launch as well. Our number one priority is making sure that whatever we ship, whenever we ship it, it meets the right quality bar across platforms. And when they look at those things, campaign co-op and Forge, they just made the determination they're not ready. And they say as a studio, they don't want to ship things if they are not ready, which totally I support as a fundamental thing. I think it just gets a bit tricky here where a lot of us would say, okay, we'll delay it till Holiday 2022 because we want the game to be out, be complete, and be good. Then you obviously have the situation, the broader context of Microsoft. They're going to want the big killer app for the Xbox Series consoles out pretty soon. I mean, goddamn, they wanted it out last year, which I think is worth talking about as to what that would have even looked like. So that's the problem. And then the other side of that is, you could say that if this comes out in a more bare bones state, but is able to get that humongous big, holiday rush. Is that better for Halo in the long term? Because they are timing themselves better within the game's market to grow the game, such that it has an active and healthy player base over the next 6 months as those updates and things come out. That's an interesting thing to puzzle out, and I think an answer to that is something that we will never get, because we won't be able to see both possible realities there. Now, they say that some of the reason behind the delay is the complexity of the non-linear campaign, and for a quote, "That's complicated when you think about save systems and all the technology that needs to drive this more non-linear experience, so in the co-op scenario, that's even more complicated." Interesting to me. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. It's the sort of thing, I imagine there is just stuff going on here, given that they're using a custom engine that is just proprietary. So those of us who know like a little bit about Unity or Unreal or something, perhaps our knowledge just doesn't really apply to the Slipstream engine that they're making this game in, that is a custom engine made for Halo. Now, they apparently did even discuss delaying the entire game. Where we landed is Halo Infinite is a live game, so it isn't really ever done. I think that's a quote that's worth talking about. We talk about launch being the beginning of a journey, but to have a beginning, you need to pick a moment to actually begin. They didn't want to delay anymore, so let's get started. And I think the thing there is there's some Halo people who are very happy to wait. There's other Halo players who are thinking, okay, I won't get those 2 features, but let's just say, come Christmas Day or Boxing Day, would I rather sit down and play the Halo campaign and then jump into some multiplayer with my friends over the holiday? There's going to be a bunch of people for whom that is going to be a better possibility, a better way of doing things, assuming those features are rock solid in their quality. That's the thing. If they're doing this, they really cannot have quality issues. And I think this campaign is going to have to be good. And honestly, whenever I hear non-linear experience, I do get worried. There's that bit of me that just thinks, okay, we all love a big open Halo map, but if you're telling me you've just done a super, super big open Halo map, and then the kind of campaign is just a bunch of objectives, it's like, does it feel like there'll be less levels and there'll be more like little mini Ubisoft things? I mean, those are the initial fears that I think play up in so many of us. We do have a quote speaking to that later on, though. So that's that situation. On the topic of the launch date, they say they are just working through some details on what a real date is. They're 100% committed to releasing this holiday, and yeah, both campaign, and then, of course, the first season of the multiplayer, with the multiplayer being free to play, which I think is going to be a pretty major thing, because, like, yeah, you can play Call of Duty Warzone for free, but you can't play the core, Call of Duty shooting experience for free. That's going to be a pretty big boon for them. So it's interesting. Also, there's Gamescom stuff going on today. We have to wonder if there'll be a release date super soon. So I think that's it for the core bit of news. There is a lot to talk about, though. We've got our what the hell is going on section, the how is this taken so long section as well, and some quotes on the first test flight of Halo Infinite, which actually I think is where the good news comes in here.
Definitely is. I think that's actually one of the things. So this story is oriented where we're starting talking about the delay, but when you were talking about having to sit through the update video to get the actual, like, the bad news, they opened with the producer Sam Hanshaw talking about the, like, stuff they learned from the flight test, the reason behind it, what they're doing. So you got all this good news of them going, everyone had great feedback, we're really happy with how everything went. Here's, like, we had a lot of problems that we found really early, we solved them over the course of the flight, so we're doing really well. And then you got, like, fed into, and now here's Joseph Staten to talk about, well, he was there with Sketch to talk about the bad news.
Yeah.
So it was done interestingly in that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as for what's generally going on here, we've all been a bit worried about Halo Infinite, given the pretty rough initial showing. And that's in the context of Halo 5. Now, I should probably talk a bit about that, because I played Halo 5 on launch, of course. And I even played it using one of those things that let you do keyboard and mouse on a console. It's like funny little translator things. And basically, the campaign wasn't great. They did the thing where they split your protagonists, which kind of means that you've got a campaign that is, maybe just as long, if not a little bit shorter. But because it's so split up between the characters, it feels just like not enough happens. And certainly they've made some narrative decisions, let's just say. But I remember immediately thinking, wow, they can make a gun feel good and sound good. Because that's one thing 343, maybe they're not quite as good as what, say, modern Bungie does in, like, Destiny 2 stuff, but just shooting a gun, the UX and stuff like that is great in Halo 5. And I remember enjoying the Halo 5 multiplayer. I enjoyed it almost looked like competitive paintball inspired mode that they did. Which was, a little bit more for the sweaty players, right? But, you're in there, you're like basically a big, complicated paintball arena. Almost looks like those Counter-Strike maps that you'd play that were just kind of like made out of like standard assets. But the gameplay could be really fun. Like playing SWAT in that was great. So it's that thing where I think I have a better opinion of Halo 5 than most because I just kind of tourist moded it. I was a bit disappointed by the campaign, but I did enjoy the core multiplayer stuff. But it is widely considered to be a weaker entry in the franchise, and that itself was a problem because Halo 4, again, it had some things that were great, like the sound effects. There's just elements of the production were really, really good, but it also had a whole bunch of issues and some things that made people kind of think, oh, is this the Call of Duty-ification of Halo for a few different multiplayer design things? So Halo's basically had this bizarre time. The Master Chief Collection comes out. Master Chief Collection, big issues at launch. Now, it's an incredible deal, and now I think is in a really, really, really good state, and I've even played some of it on my Series X, and I had quite a lot of fun with it. But it's just funny that, Halo 4 and 5 have existed, and I don't actually have numbers here, but I've got the impression that Master Chief Collection is what people play a bit more.
I would imagine so.
Certainly whenever I went into Master Chief Collection, I was playing Halo 3 and Halo Reach. There is that. Now, for the rest of... that's some context about the Halo franchise in the more modern era. I mean, really, in the post-Xbox 360 era. Of course, Halo 5 came out at the end of the 360 gen. But yeah, this was supposed to come out in 2020. Now, if this is in this current state, right, where with a year-long delay, 2 core pillars of Halo are not there, I mean, how the hell did they do that release in... the info release in summer 2020 with a holiday 2020 release date? I mean, we'd heard some of those rumors about like marketing being out of sync with the devs. My God, that must have been true to an insane degree. And I wonder, like, how are the devs not able to escalate their concerns and say, hey, marketing people, there is no way in hell this will be done?
I think that's the case you run into in a lot of AAA, where devs are basically spending too much time with their heads down, trying to get stuff done, and they're like, okay, well here's another deadline. They're trying their best, whereas the leads involved are also trying their best, but it's the people at the very top who are making the decisions and going, no, we need this. And then what are you going to do? Say no? Like, sorry, we can't make that. They're like, well, make it happen, or we'll get someone else to do your job. So I feel like there's a lot of in that kind of corporate angle where marketing's kind of driving the whole thing.
Yeah.
More than anything else. And can you fit what marketing thinks is best? Can you fit what makes the best story overall for this and what sells the most versus the actual quality? It's just the case of, I think everyone has their blinders on trying to do their job, but
yeah,
that means that they're not going, listen, we literally need another if we assume everything went as it was from then, at that point in August, they'd be going, we need at least another another 2 years basically. If we assume that, because Forge is 6 months away from launch.
Okay, yeah.
So that would be April. So we're like, we need almost 2 years to finish this. But they clearly didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
Otherwise they would have, maybe said it.
Yeah, it's rough. So as for that delay, it was announced about the same time that Joseph Staten, who was the prior lead writer and cinematic director, when he returned to the franchise to lead the campaign project, but then shortly after that, he was changed to head of creative. The former studio head, Chris Lee, left the project and the studio, and that was the third major staff departure after Tim Longo, creative director, and Mary Olson, executive producer, left in 2019. And that leads us to that question of, how has this all taken so long? Where there have been lots of rumors about the internal workings of 343, We've heard very different stories from very different sources, which I think implies, I mean, as you put, that if there are problems, they're small or isolated, or perhaps that there's just a lot of problems, but maybe it's quite a siloed company and it's just people sharing their perspectives. Therefore, it seems a bit fragmentary whenever it hits the news cycle. But there's the obvious stuff with the creative reshuffles. Usually when you high up creative people enter a project, there'll be a little bit of a change, right? Be that a soft reboot, or be that taking what they have and then trying to hammer it into shape. So there's that angle there. Now on the campaign, I did drop that breadcrumb earlier. So Joseph Staten said that he was blown away after playing the campaign in 2020. Now, there's a version of that where it's this less linear, big, open feeling campaign in a way that's really bad, that makes you think of, oh dear, Ubisoft are doing an Ubisoft game with shooting. Well, I mean, Far Cry is one of those, but you know what I mean, right? That's like the worst way that you could think about that. Now, the best way you could think about that is it's Halo. Halo is known for its big combat sandbox, and that's the thing that we all, in many ways, love about the campaigns, where in some cases it's like less the massive set pieces, and it's more like the massive set and like the cool dynamics of the various different, like, you know, mechanics, enemies, etc. at play. So if it's open but doubles down to the combat sandbox, then that's really good. But we don't know. And we don't know where the story's going to go. And frankly, between Halo 4 and Halo 5, it has really not seemed like they've known what they're doing. Because if you look at Halo 1, 2, and 3, that is like part 1, part 2, but they clearly had to cut some stuff, you know, Halo 2 with its development issues, and then Halo 3 is part 3. And it really did just feel like that's the story. Whereas Halo 4, you know, you've got all of the, like, the Forerunner dudes, and it ends with the stuff at Earth. And then Halo 5 is like, whoa, different for a bit. And now this isn't even Halo 6. Like, they sort of build it as, oh, this is the Reclaimer trilogy. And between 4 and 5, I don't really think you ever got a good sense of that, because it's not like the Forerunners or even the key villain in Halo 5. It's the, I mean, I think at this stage it's not a spoiler, it's all of the situation with Cortana. And then we don't really, so just narratively in Halo, I think people are a bit confused about what's going on in the world and the setting, which is certainly a part of that's because Halo 4 relied so much on people having expanded universe knowledge from like books and wikis and things.
Yeah, I feel like that's a real problem whenever you've got narrative stuff like that. Whenever you're taking on, because like I think earlier in this doc I said that 343 may not be the best custodians of the franchise, and I think that's probably where the problem comes from, where they have a specific idea for what Halo was when they picked it up as the creative leads, and having all that expanded universe knowledge to go, well, we want to take this franchise forward. So they focus on franchise elements. They focus on like what new stories can be seen in like this universe, which I think kind of feels the same way Star Wars kind of goes, and the same way World of Warcraft's kind of going.
Yeah, where perhaps it's like you want your world building to almost happen by accident without you knowing, because the plot's so engrossing and the characters are so engrossing. And then if it feels like it's way too relying on the world building elements, but the plot and the characters aren't there, then it's just a very unsatisfying experience.
Yeah, they're
like in WoW.
Yeah, they're trying too hard to build a universe, to build a franchise, as opposed to telling a nice story.
Yeah.
So I think with Joseph Staten coming back onto that to kind of maybe hammer out some of the points that weren't very Halo-y, because obviously he'd been like the original lead writer, maybe he'll be able to pull it back into a place where it's satisfying to Halo people, doesn't bite off more than it can chew, and end up in a nice way. Because I mean, that's what I think is the important part about having a non-linear campaign. Because I've been thinking about this quite a lot recently, but the idea of like structuring a non-linear campaign, it's like basically impossible to have a story built with blocks that you don't know how people are going to put them together. So you have to structure that effectively. So if they can get this open sandbox and structure it effectively enough to maintain this, here's your open bit, here's your story, here's your open bit, here's your story, then we might have something vaguely good, but honestly, it's hard to tell until it comes out.
I think as well a part of this is, well, scalebound. And what people, or at least what a lot of us understand of being the problems of being a developer working with Microsoft. Less in this new Phil Spencer-y era, in those previous eras, and I think Spencer probably inherited a bunch of issues. But we've seen so many different reports. 343, of course, was founded very much in the mire of Microsoft bad. in terms of how they were seemingly treating some, at least third-party devs, like with Platinum and Scalebound. Maybe that just makes you think that 343 inherited a whole bunch of problems, and that has been a thing. Like, if you look at Halo 4, they, with the loadouts and stuff, they did try to make it more accessible. A lot of the long-time Halo fans were kind of like, oh, is this a bit codified? Not codified, like COD, Call of Duty-ified. And then when you go to Halo 5, they were doing a lot of, okay, well, you know what? We've got elements that are going back to Halo. And that's what they were doing with 5. So you just wonder what sort of top-level Microsoft influences were at play there. Now, there is also Thurrott, where, we had that stuff about there being apparently substantial amounts of outsourced work, also COVID, apparently a higher ratio than a typical studio of outsourcing. People talking about challenge development, that the 2019 trailer was outsourced and the game wasn't at a playable state at that level of fidelity. Now that Thurrott report was under scrutiny because 343 Sketch did say that one part of the report was 100% false regarding plans to separate multiplayer and campaign. So there's that. But he did tweet this Star Wars gif. Amazing. Every word of what you just said is wrong 2 days after the article went live. So who knows? Now, to end this in a bit of better news for people, because while we may not be getting Forge multiplayer campaign at launch, the test flight went well.
It was incredible to me because I've never played much of Halo ever. I've kind of
big Halo as a kid.
Yeah, I was more on the PlayStation side of things, console-wise, and multiplayer shooters, Call of Duty stuff, and then TF2 instead of Halo. But it's just, I'm really excited for it, especially because I've Game Pass. I don't even need Game Pass because I can play the multiplayer on PC for free. It just seems so, community response has been outrageous. I think I was watching, it was The Act Man. I was watching a video of him talking about his impressions after, and you could almost see the shine on his eyes of just pure bliss, just so happy that this is Halo multiplayer in possibly the best form it's ever been.
That's a thing to be excited about.
Yeah, and if that's prevailing community opinion, then I think 343 need a pat on the back for that, to be honest.
There's my final point before we close it off is I wonder, all the telemetry they've got for Master Chief Collection, they're going to know that of the dedicated Halo people, what are the modes they actually play, actually stick with. Because if it turned out that Halo 4 was the very popular one, and not Halo 3 or Halo Reach, then number one, we'd be in an upside-down universe. But number two, that would give them a lot of insights. So I have to wonder if between the player data from Halo 5 and then just having all of the Halos in a great playable state with MCC, if that helped them in their decision-making, with that player telemetry, seeing what people are actually doing. So, interesting.
Almost certainly, because it does sound like, from the community response I saw, it seemed to be that they basically picked the best parts from every Halo and managed to ride the community line really well, where it's even the stuff that was hotly debated, they managed to fall on the side of just about more people prefer this.
Yeah.
And then they've narrowed it down so that everyone's happy, or it seems like everyone's largely happy, which is interesting. If they can do that with a campaign, this could be a severe win.
Yep.
Severe win.
So I think, if I was to close my opinion, basically, I am sad about these things. However, I have Game Pass anyway, which is an element here. I have Game Pass anyway, so I'm going to get this game in day one anyway. And if these things are out and are at extremely good levels of quality, then I am actually happy enough from a personal perspective. As much as it's unfortunate about those things, I can totally understand why people might not be. But look, if I can hop into some Halo multiplayer on my time off, well, they'll be serving me well as a customer, and I'll feel pretty good about my Game Pass purchase, at least for that month. And surely for Microsoft, that would be a win.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, there we go. Halo Infinite. It's not going to be all there at launch, but hopefully what's there will be good. See you next time.